Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
And I'm Valerie Comer, still coming to you from a retreat center with a beige wall and no cat. And also kind of wobbly internet. So if you see me sitting here like for too long, it's because
Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting.
Hopefully I'll be right back.
Today we are talking about CCR set in Louisiana and Oklahoma. So anybody else, as you were reading books set in Oklahoma, find yourself singing? Oh, Oklahoma, where the wind goes. No, just me.
No,
okay.
Just you.
Sorry, just me. Just me. I have no introductory comments or questions about Louisiana and Oklahoma. Do either of you have grand observations about these states?
Well, it's not about the states, but I thought I had 3 books for this episode. But I then worked out that the author had re-released the book that I'd written a book recommendation for probably 5-6 years ago, and it's now in Texas. So we don't have a West, instead of having a Western in Oklahoma, there's a Western in Texas. So I only have 2 books, but I did have 3.
Okay.
But I'm not going to talk about a book that's changed settings because
you're going to have to. They need to know. In fact, you should go first with that one, but keep it really short because it's not in Oklahoma.
Right.
Oh no, I haven't even taken notes. I've only got 2 written down for today because I just thought there's bye-bye to my 3rd one.
That's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, so I guess we're going to just dive in and talk books because they're in the South. Well, Oklahoma's less South than Louisiana. I will fully admit that I paired these later Southern states weirdly. So Louisiana and Oklahoma make strange bedfellows, but such as it is. So whatever, it's what we're doing. So
all right,
we're going to talk books. Valerie, you want to go first? What's your first?
Sure. My first is Louisiana. And it is an older series, Come to Me series by Leah Atwood. Did either of you have that one down?
No.
Come to Me Alive is the first book. Bryce Landry is country music's newest, biggest star. You might not know that because you might think it's somebody else, but in this world, that's who he is. And he had been living a pretty rough life. And he found out about a year ago in story time that he was a father and that his girlfriend had never told him because he was this rising star and she didn't want to derail his career and his life and stuff. But now she's dying of cancer, and now here you go, you have I think a 4-year-old at that time. So that kind of did send him for a bit of a tailspin, and he leaves the little girl with his grandparents part of the time, takes her with him part of the time, and he's really grappling. And also during that time period is when he becomes a Christian. So that's all like 1 year ago, and now he's trying to figure out how, in fact, to make this all work. And then he meets Sophie is her name. She's a kindergarten teacher in the town where his grandparents live with his little girl, and and the rest is history, so to speak. It's kind of fun because she doesn't recognize him. She's at the park, and these ducks go wild, and he saves her from these rabid ducks. And then her phone rings, and it's and he stops and he turns around and looks because it's his song that's the ringtone. And so I think it's in chapter 2, it's pretty early when he tells her who he is, and because he's never even given a first name. And she's like, well, I'd be happy to go on this date you're asking me for, but I don't even know your name. And he goes, can you hand me your phone? And so she's like, oh, sure. And he finds his song and he sings along to it. And then she freaks out. So that's kind of fun. But it's a good book, and it leads off a really cool series that I enjoyed very, very much when it first came out a few years ago.
Do you know the name of the town in Louisiana?
Odin Bridge.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a real town or not. I never looked it up.
But it's not New Orleans or anything. So,
no, it's a small town.
Small town. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Narelle.
Well, I think we should go to New Orleans next.
Excellent.
Or New Orleans. See, I would say
Oh, no,
Orleans.
Nolans is technically correct.
Nolans. Oh,
No,
I'm
Nawlins.
N-A-W, Nolans.
Nolans.
No,
Nolans.
Nolans.
No.
Like you gnaw on something. Nolans.
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 That's very hard for an Aussie to say.
She's saying that.
Yeah.
Nolans.
Nolans.
No, I can't get rid of the O. It's an Aussie thing.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's
talk.
place.
But
We know who
anyway,
you
so
mean now.
Louisiana, we are in, and I'm talking about All the More by Toni Shiloh. Now, this was in the Something Borrowed. That was the Christmas wedding set that came out. I think it was 2020. So I haven't read this book. It's a novella, and I was planning to reread it, but I got a migraine, which completely stuffed all my preparation up for all the episodes that we're doing with this recording. So my apologies for that, but I really enjoyed this one. It was such a sweet story, and this is where Layla, now I think I've said Leilah, is that Layla or Lila?
It
is
could
Layla?
be either, but I would say it Layla, but it could be Lila.
Yeah,
it could be either.
and she's the one who's in a wheelchair. She had the spinal. Have you guys read this one?
I have.
I have.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's been
So
a
you
while,
can
though.
fill in my gaps.
I
Yeah, and
can
she's
fill in the gaps. I remember it, but not in detail.
Okay.
Yeah, so she had a spinal tumor, a spinal tumor, if I can talk today, and is partially paralyzed and is in a wheelchair. And this happened quite a number of years ago. And so she's become very reclusive, and her world is pretty much online. So she's teaching online, and she will talk to people online. And she has this particular friend, Reggie, who's in Denver, Colorado. And so he wants to meet her because she's going to be going out to Denver for a wedding with one of the girls in one of the other books. And she really is reluctant to meet him because of a whole range of reasons. And I just love the faith element and the spiritual thread in this story. That was really the standout for me in terms of seeing her struggle in terms of being able to come out of herself, and the way he loved her as well was just really well done. And so that's why I'm bringing it up.
She was in a wheelchair, right?
No.
Yeah,
that was the problem, that she didn't want to meet him because he didn't know that.
Yeah.
It has some An Affair to Remember shades of in it as well, which I enjoy those little nods.
Yeah, so that's my first one. So I recommend that. And as I said, I really do need to go and reread. I enjoyed that box set. So, and they're all available, and you can find them all because they're all connected by a series on Amazon. So you can work, even if you don't have the original set when they were together, you can then go to Amazon and work through the books because they're all connected via a series page.
Oh, that's nice. That's very
good.
All right, so my first one, I was worried for a minute when Valerie said she was in Louisiana with an old series. I was like, man, she stole my series, but she didn't. So that's exciting.
Did you steal my second one?
But maybe is the Cane River series by Mary Jane Hathaway. It's set on. It's a great series. The first book is The Pepper in the Gumbo. And it's set on the Cane River in Louisiana. And the thing that I love absolutely the most about this series, although I love many, many things about this series, is that they could not be set anywhere else and be the same book. They really give you the flavor of Louisiana. And sometimes we will talk about books that are set in a specific state or something, and really it could be anywhere really in that region, not necessarily that specific state.
Or really anywhere.
Or anywhere, yeah. Small town USA, anywhere. Yeah. But these books really truly embrace the flavors of the Creole and the Louisiana. They couldn't be anywhere else. So if you want a flavor of Louisiana, truly, The Pepper in the Gumbo is the first book, and the whole series is just delightful. And it weaves in, it's not historical, but it weaves in the history of the area too, which I think is super fun as well.
Because gumbo's food, isn't it?
Gumbo is food, fairly unique to Louisiana. It is, yes, it is a Louisiana staple. It has okra. It's like a thick stew. It's delicious. Rice and okra and crawfish and delicious things.
Hmm.
Yeah. What you got next, Valerie?
Shall we go to Oklahoma?
Yes.
Yes.
Where the
So
wind
this
goes.
is one that I read brand new, knowing that we were going to be talking about Oklahoma. So
Excellent.
it is a love-inspired novel by Brenda Minton called The Prodigal Cowboy.
Ooh.
The whole series is set in Oklahoma, so I kind of glanced through the different storylines and I decided that the third book sounded more interesting. So I took a page out of the Narelle book and went, I don't need to read books 1 and 2. I'm
Yay!
partly because the love-inspired ones also tend to be a little bit less linked than what many of us indie authors do.
Yeah.
So the hero is a bullfighter and he's been injured, and that becomes important only in that he really kind of has to take some time off. And he and the heroine, whose name is Holly, had a baby when they were high schoolers, and they gave her up for adoption. It's not a secret baby. He knew that she was pregnant. They gave her up to a private adoption, and to a woman that they knew who lived in another state. And this was 11 years ago. This child is 11 years old now, and the adoptive mom just passed away from cancer. And in her will, she wanted to give Cole and Holly the chance to know their daughter. So it's a completely different take on instant family and all that good stuff. And it was a little bit rough, and I did not always like Cole very much. He had a little bit of attitude that, yeah, anyway. So they don't talk to each other. They haven't talked to each other really much at all since giving away their baby many years ago. She runs a cafe in rural Oklahoma. She cares for her mother, who has early onset dementia. She really doesn't need a sassy 11-year-old that she doesn't know, but I mean, she wouldn't dream of not taking her in,
Right.
but it's just like her life is already so piled full. So it's a really sweet story, as you would probably expect from Love Inspired, and I did very much enjoy it. So
Thanks.
Hmm. Well, we're going to stay in Oklahoma City, actually. And I'm going to talk about a book.
All about the cities.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about a book I have actually reread, but I haven't reread for a few years. So you'll have to forgive me for that. But I may have spoken about this book in an earlier episode a few years ago too. And that is Sway by Amy Matayo. So I will start by saying this is very much edgy Christian fiction. If you're a conservative reader, then this is the time when you can take a break and get a drink from the fridge or something, because this is honestly not going to be the book for you, because it is edgy in content. And Caleb, who is a Christian, the story opens of him in this very seedy bar in Oklahoma City. And he is there for a reason. You find out why he's there. He's not like backsliding or anything like that. He's legitimately there for a reason. And he sees this bar fight and this girl who's this very young girl there that's sort of on her own, and he rescues her from this situation in the bar. And when they first meet, there's a really strong attraction between this couple. The chemistry is very much there from the get-go and is very much in the story. So if you really like the sort of general market sweet clean, where you've got that strong attraction that's on the page and is probably more there than the typical CCR, then you would like this one as well. And Kate was there because it's her 21st birthday. I think it was hers, or it might have been a friend's. And this is not something she normally goes to. And all her friends abandon her to chase one-night stands. And so she's stuck in this bar and is like, all my friends have left me, which is like the girl code is that you don't do that. So her friends are really not good friends to be doing this to her, because that's not the way people usually behave, particularly at that age. And so she's abandoned in this bar and she gets herself into a sticky situation, and Caleb rescues her. And so then things start. But what I really liked about this book is it really addresses the unequally yoked issue as well. And there's some stuff that comes out in terms of Kate's background and her parents. And it was like, I can still remember reading this book and getting a visceral reaction to when I heard what was going on. It was like a big wow. Oh my goodness, this is massive, what's happening in the story. And I could not put this book down. This is one I read so fast. I devoured this book the first time I read it. And when I reread it, I also read it very quickly as well. And it's very, the spiritual threads and the faith element is very organic to the story as well. And you couldn't pull it out. You couldn't pull out the faith thread and still have the story stand either. Yes, so it's probably not everyone's cup of tea, Sway, but if you tend to like all the things I've talked about, then go read it.
Excellent.
Fair
All
enough.
right, well, yep, I will stay in Oklahoma. I read Finding the Road Home by Tina Radcliffe, which is a love inspired, set in Oklahoma. And I will admit that I was very concerned about reading it because the man on the cover has on a cowboy hat. Thankfully,
Of course it does.
thankfully, he is a sheriff, not a cowboy. Yes.
Phew. The nerve.
I did not have to read a cowboy book. I was very excited about that.
I'm glad you like my books. You do,
I
right?
love your books. I love
Good.
yeah. Selected cowboy books, but in general, I am not a fan of the oeuvre. So, the heroine, and I'm looking, and I didn't write her name down, and now I was like, I'm not going to forget that. Yeah, yes, I did. Anyway, she is new to town. She was hired as a new police officer. He was told that they would be getting some additional funding, which they really need, so that they could hire an additional officer, especially as they have someone getting ready to retire. And so they hired her. She had been, I think, in Denver. So like big city police officer. She's got like 7 or 9 years of experience doing this. But she also is a single mom of, I think, 4 or 6 children, because she took in her sister's children, her twin sister's children, when her twin sister and her twin sister's husband were killed in a car crash. So she's had this instant family sort of dumped in her lap. And she knows that being a big city cop is not necessarily conducive to also raising all these small children. So her grandmother moves with her to the town. So she does have help. So that's good. Right. But I love the fact that he is drawn to her in part because he had raised his siblings from the time he was 18 when his parents were killed. And so he really understands what she's going through with this and what it does to your life to have to put your life on hold to take care of other people. But it was really gentle and really sweet and just sort of just a quiet walk into love. You know, it was not super angsty. It was just really light and sweet and delicious. Which it was a sweet, because like, I feel like having a lot of angsty reads lately, which is not usually my jam. Super angst is not my thing. So this was just like a little bit of sorbet between courses. It was lovely.
Nice. I'm sure she could use that in marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel free, Tina. Go ahead. Love inspired editors. Do you have a third one, Valerie?
I do. I'm back in Louisiana. Are you guys going to follow me to Louisiana?
No, my third one's in Oklahoma.
I'm done,
okay.
remember?
And Valerie,
remember I lost.
Narelle doesn't have any more. So
my book ran away to Texas. Sorry.
The road diverges here.
Yep.
And it's Writing Home by Amy Anguish is the one I'm choosing. And this is, I cannot pronounce the word, but it's a letter writing novel where the
epistolary.
Sure,
yeah,
that word.
Yes.
I wrote it down and I mean, I had to like look up the spelling, and then I'm like, I'm not even going to try to say that. So the heroine is a girl named Kristian who goes by Chris. And she tells her childhood best friend that she's tired of social media and all the hoopla, and she just wants an old-fashioned pen pal. And her friend, with a devious gleam in her eye that Chris did not see, says, oh, I have a cousin who would make a really good pen pal. My cousin doesn't like to be on social media either. My cousin is good at this sort of thing. My cousin is Jordan. And so it turns out Jordan's guy. But the best friend never says that. So Jordan writes her a letter, and she's like, oh, Jordan's kind of into fishing and stuff, and that's great. Maybe they all are in Louisiana, because she's in Alabama. So this is a split place kind of story. But he figures out pretty quick that she's not, and he thinks at first too that it's a guy, right? Chris.
Yeah.
So, but he figures out after her first letter, he's like,
not a guy.
yeah. So he admits to her. So it's not like this hidden identity thing for a long time, but it was kind of cute. But they decide to keep writing anyway, because why not? They're 2 states away. When are they ever going to meet? They might as well just have this friendship. But of course, it's a romance novel, so never mind that.
Cool. I love it. That sounds fun. I haven't read that one, and I
think that might be the first one of Amy's that I'd read. Okay. So it was fun. Yeah.
Cool. So my last one then is Return to Hope. And I'm probably going to butcher this author name, and I apologize in advance. I believe it's Kristian, but it's spelled Kristian. Would you pronounce that Kristian?
Yeah.
Kristian?
It could be Kristian.
I froze up there in the middle. What book are we on?
Return to Hope. And it's by either Kristian or Kristian. I'm going to go with Libel. Libel. Libel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Libel. I apologize. I can come up with like 4 different ways to say each name in your name, and I'm not sure which one is correct. So, Adrian is the heroine, and she is recently widowed. So she's a single mom. She has a 5-year-old Valerie. So you would enjoy that. She ends up leaving one town in Oklahoma, about 2 hours away from where she grew up, to go back home to her hometown, to live with her parents while she tries to sort of regroup after her husband has been killed. And she just sort of wants to get back on her feet, figure out money, that kind of thing, and then probably move back to the other town where their life was. Especially because her high school boyfriend is still in hometown, and they had a really bad breakup right before college. It was very traumatic. She's absolutely not over it. She hates him with the passion of 1,000 fiery suns. And but he has changed, and he's desperate for her to see that he's changed. He's become a Christian. He wasn't at the time. He's, of course, the kindergartner teacher. So she can't avoid him. And he falls in love with her son, Jordan. And so it's, she can't avoid him because he's her son's teacher. So you got sort of that forced proximity in there that's fairly realistic. I did occasionally, I liked the story. It was good. And I finished it, and I absolutely will read more in the series. Occasionally, I felt like he was a little too pushy about, you need to get over this so that we can be together. Because I was like, if Adrian was my friend, I'd be like, let's take a step back. You can come live with me. We'll go move to another town and give you some space. Because he was really kind of pushy about it. And he did, he felt God, well, like he had, people have varying thoughts. Both of them hear God speaking to them, like in italicized thoughts. So God pretty clearly told him, just be patient. She's going to be yours, kind of thing. So it made sense in the book, but every now and then I was just like, back off, buddy. She said no. So, but they do end up obviously together in the end.
It's so tricky as an author to navigate that, because you don't want every story, every second chance story where they're enemies to lovers to have the same dynamic. You need some variation. And yet other times you look at it and you go, I wouldn't fall for this guy because he's just being rude.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say she didn't cross the line. It wasn't like a DNF level cross the line. There were just a couple moments where I'm watching you,
Yeah.
So, but it was good. And I'd never read, anything by her before. So, that's always kind of fun. I like to try new authors, try new things.
Yeah.
Then Kindle Unlimited, which is also a bonus for me.
Excellent.
All right. Final Louisiana, Oklahoma thoughts.
We have been there.
We have. We have been
And
there.
we talked about these books.
So does this mean we finish the South then? Have we finished the South?
Define South.
Think we
I
might.
don't know, whatever people say the South is.
Whatever Beth says the South is.
Whatever
We're
I
not
say,
even Americans.
Yeah, I think we have, because next month we will hit Texas. And
Which
then
is
after
South, but not the South.
no, it's Texas. It's its own thing.
But it is,
Yeah.
on the map.
Yeah. Well,
It
it's
is
south.
South.
It's the
of a lot of things.
Southwest, technically, which is different from the South. Like there's the South and then there's Southwest, which is a separate thing. And then within the Southwest, Texas is its own thing because it's Texas.
All right.
So yeah. So yeah,
So
we're done with the
it's going to
South.
be all cowboys all the time in Texas.
No, we will not.
I will intentionally make sure that my books are not all cowboy books.
I
There's
will
actually-
also be looking for non-cowboy
Oh, I
Texas
could not
books.
resist.
And
digging
there's
it
so
to you
many, there are so many books in Texas because I've already started looking at Texas. There's
Yeah,
so many
there are.
books that aren't cowboys because Texas has you've got
Texas is huge. They've got
Houston, you've got the
yeah.
Gulf Coast. Yeah.
they've got
Consider
everything,
this your teaser, dear reader,
right? Yeah. Yeah.
for next one.
We could probably do several episodes on books set in Texas because
Yes.
there are so many, but
There
we're
we
doing one. So you get a small sampling.
No more than 9 books that
That's
we
right.
thought were worthy of mention.
That's right.
But now you all have a heads up that we're doing this. You can go and read Texas at the same time as we read Texas and let us know in the comments on YouTube if we
Yeah,
read
there
the
you
same
go.
books.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely. And also while you're there on YouTube, comment about Louisiana and Oklahoma if you've read any of those.
Or
And-
others.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, what we've covered or other things that we missed, because I'm sure we missed plenty.
Because we talked about like 8 books.
Yeah, we missed plenty. So
And Cooney's going to return next
yes.
month.
yes,
we
next
hope.
month Cooney will be back. So
hope.
we will look forward to seeing you then next month. But we'll also look forward to seeing you next week because this which will be next month. So hey.
This isn't awkward at all.
I dragged that all totally off script. This is why we have a script. No, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye.
Bye.
I think you got all that in there. Bye, everyone.